You smoke it and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Thursday, August 20th, 2015, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thank you for joining us today. Got a great show coming up for you today with all sorts of new content and comments from you, for you, about you, by you. It's all by, for, and about the cannabis community, and if you're a part of that cannabis community, welcome. And if you're not, if you're just curious, if you're just a lover of liberty, as I mentioned earlier, we welcome you here too. We got a lot of things to talk about on the show today. Coming up in our Behind the Headlines segment, we're going to take a look at the counties and cities here in my state of Oregon that are taking advantage of a special right that they were granted by our legislature to outright ban all marijuana licensees without a vote of the people, despite the fact that the people voted that's the way it should be, is through a vote of the people. We'll explain how that breaks down and who is the latest county to be voting to ban marijuana commerce in its jurisdiction. Also on the show today, we'll go into drug war data mining. There's some new data released from Washington State Patrol regarding marijuana and driving. We're going to take a look at the marijuana DUID numbers as well as the auto fatality numbers in drug war data mining. At half past in our Reformers Reader, we've got a very special guest joining us, Dr. David Bierman, MD, who is the author of Drugs Are Not the Devil's Tools. It's a great 2-volume compendium that I liken to being the Emperor Wears No Clothes for all drugs, not just marijuana. We'll talk to Dr. Bierman at half past, and it'll be a great conversation. Then at the end of the show, we'll have time for a radical rant that I call Legalize Gay Marijuana Bars. And strangely enough, as I was coming up with this rant, I was flipping through the news and found a great piece in Politico by former Representative Barney Frank, who makes some of the same points I make. So it'll be interesting to compare and contrast that. Then we'll take things into Hour 2 Toker Talk Radio that is only on our live stream. You can't get it by podcast. It's only live on 420radio.org. And then we'll be talking about Colorado's new attempt to have an anti-marijuana public service campaign for kids. You remember their first one, Don't Be Al, a Brat. I mean, Don't Be a Lab Rat. The ones where they put the giant cages all over the place and kids made fun of them by smoking pot inside them and posting the pictures on Facebook. Well, they've got a new campaign and it's a little more sensible. We'll talk a little bit about that in Hour 2. Plus, we're going to have some music from one of the MCs who performed at Seattle Hempfest for our Groovin' Thursday today, SL51, with a tune called Unbreakable. And then we'll end Hour 2 today with a comedy set by Ngaio Bealum and Lydia Popovich at the Seattle Hempfest. So that'll be our final Seattle Hempfest play until tomorrow, when we bring you an interview with Lotus Crush and an extended 2-song break with these great Seattle rockers. Actually, I don't think they're from Seattle. They were just playing in Seattle. I don't know. That's Herb Thrasher's department. All right, folks, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, the 420 Radio News is next. We've got all sorts of stories for you coming from Harborside Health Center in Oakland, Oregon's Court of Appeals, a Santa Ana court, Washington driver statistics, and the first dispensary ever in the state of Nevada. All coming up next.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, what's up? It's Herb Thrasher, and you're listening to 420 Radio. Hi, I'm Alex Rogers, producer of the 4th Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference, the OMMBC. There have been a lot of recent changes to Oregon cannabis laws. Recreational sales start October 1st, new licensing from the state, and changes to medical marijuana. Are you prepared? Join us at the downtown Portland Hilton September 12th and 13th with the industry's top cannabis experts, political leaders, exhibitors, and nightly networking events. For more information, join us online or give us a call. The OMMBC. Be part of history.
Step into the future every Tuesday night with Electric Bob's Boogaloo, our weekly electronic music jam. Electric Bob brings you the latest house, trance, dubstep, and other electronic music from the freshest DJs and producers. It's every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, with replays weekends at 11 p.m. on 420radio.org.
.420 Radio is brought to you by Sacred Serum, who is focused on creating elegant and sophisticated cannabis solutions through its line of dispensers and vaporizers that come preloaded with the world's finest cannabis concentrate. Sacred Serum's concentrate is made on pharmaceutical-grade supercritical CO2 extraction machines that use absolutely no butane or other toxic chemicals. The Vesica, the company's innovative new way to dab and frost, is now available in dispensaries across California. Sacred Serum, elegance and sophistication concentrated.
It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Replays of 420 Radio News are embeddable and shareable from our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/RadicalRuss. Now, the marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is your 420 Radio News for Thursday, August 20th, 2015. A federal appeals court on Thursday rejected the Oakland City's intervention in the U.S. Justice Department's effort to close down Harborside Health Center, concluding that the legal move interferes with the federal government's powers under forfeiture laws to move against what it considers illegal activity. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, in a unanimous 3-judge ruling, found Oakland had a right to sue, but that its legal arguments would undercut federal drug enforcement powers. The Ninth Circuit was reviewing a 2013 lower court ruling tossing out Oakland's lawsuit, which argues that a federal government shutdown of one of 4 city-approved and regulated medical marijuana outfits harms the city's interests and clashes with California's 1996 law permitting medical marijuana use. Thursday's ruling could allow federal law enforcement officials to move to close down the operation. The Oregon Court of Appeals on Wednesday refused to declare the smell of marijuana smoke wafting into a neighbor's home unpleasant. The appeals court ruled that although rotten eggs or raw sewage are physically offensive odors to all, marijuana smoke isn't necessarily so. Quote, "We are not prepared to declare that the odor of marijuana smoke is equivalent to the odor of garbage. Indeed, some people undoubtedly find the scent pleasing," end quote, the appeals court wrote in throwing out the second-degree criminal mischief convictions of a Philomath man whose home was searched in 2012 because of the aroma of pot drifting from it. An officer asked a Benton County judge for a search warrant of Lang's unit on the grounds that Lang might have committed second-degree disorderly conduct by creating a physically offensive smell. The judge granted the warrant, and the officer found evidence of a completely unrelated crime of spraying graffiti around Philomath. Surveillance video showing the Santa Ana police raid of a medical marijuana dispensary in California can be used by investigators, a judge has ruled, curbing law enforcement efforts to keep the video from being entered as evidence in the probe concerning the conduct of the officers involved in the operation. Cameras inside the Sky High Collective Pot Dispensary in Santa Ana captured the raid as it unfolded on May 27th and were released the following month by the shop's attorneys. Lawyers working with law enforcement have been fighting to keep the clip away from investigators, however, in light of an internal probe launched by the Santa Ana Police Department amidst allegations brought by the dispensary. According to the attorneys for the shop, the footage shows police officers consuming marijuana edibles during the raid and mocking a woman in a wheelchair, an amputee, but not until after they had disabled almost all of the surveillance cameras inside the premises. Data released Wednesday show that the number of Washington drivers involved in deadly crashes who tested positive for active marijuana doubled from 2013 to 2014, the first year of legal marijuana sales in the state. The number of drivers involved in fatal crashes who tested positive for active THC, the main psychoactive compound in marijuana, had held fairly steady from 2010 to 2013, between 32 and 38 per year. That number jumped to 75 in 2014, and about half were above the state's legal limit for marijuana-impaired driving. Many of those drivers also tested positive for alcohol or other drugs. Last year, there were 619 drivers involved in fatal accidents. 12% were positive for active THC. The number of drivers involved in fatal crashes in Washington who had been drinking, whether or not they were above the legal limit of 0.08% blood alcohol content, had fallen from 214 in 2009 to 144 last year. 15 years after medical marijuana was legalized in Nevada, Clark County's first retail dispensary plans to open to the public Monday. Euphoria Wellness will begin selling to patients at 10 a.m. Monday. To help contend with expected high demand, only 250 people who have pre-registered will be allowed to buy marijuana and cannabis-infused products on each of the first 2 days. On Wednesday, the dispensary will be open to any licensed cardholder, of which there are about 9,500 statewide. Medical marijuana cardholders from other states also will be able to shop at Nevada dispensaries. Nevada voters legalized medical marijuana in 2000, but no system for distributing the drug through retail outlets was set up, meaning patients had to grow their own marijuana. This has been your 420 Radio News for Thursday, August 20th, 2015. I'm Russ Belville.
Marijuana is not addictive, but listening to the Russ Belville Show is.
The Fingerboard extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The Fingerboard extension has National Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone, and Recording King banjos. The Fingerboard extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the Fingerboard extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the fourth Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers. Welcome back, everybody. Time to go behind the headlines, where the Bend Bulletin reports that Crook County adopts marijuana ban. Marijuana-related businesses are banned in the unincorporated areas of the county. It happened in Prineville, Oregon last night, Wednesday morning, later in the evening, where about 40 marijuana advocates had gathered for this meeting of the Crook County Commission. The three-man Crook County Court voted unanimously, 3-0, to ban all marijuana-related businesses. Now, the problem about this, of course, is number one, the marijuana activists in the room believed that the Crook County commissioners already had their mind made up, that they had no plans on ever even listening or considering that marijuana should not be banned in Crook County. Crook County had voted 59% against Measure 91. There were 5,358 people that voted against it, 3,747 voting for it. And this was possible because of something that I've come to call the West Idaho Compromise. And that is that Senator Ted Ferrioli fought in the Oregon legislature to exempt the 15 counties that had voted against Measure 91 at greater than 55%. They are exempted from having to put a ban on marijuana-related businesses before the voters. So those 3,747 people in Crook County that voted yes on marijuana legalization are just ignored. In fact, the will of all of the voters in the state of Oregon who voted that everybody who wants to ban marijuana, whether you're a city or county, should have to put it before the voters. That entire discussion is moot. These people don't have to do it. They can ban just on a 3-0 commission vote. Now, the argument about this had been from Senator Ferrioli and others that they had already just voted in the election against Measure 91. In this case, 59% against. So why should they have to go back and vote again that they don't want marijuana-related businesses? But that I feel is too simplistic a way of looking at this. The statewide vote that was held in November on Measure 91 contained among it provisions for allowing local bans. And the majority of the state voted that the law should be that local bans have to go before the voters. That was approved by the whole state. The question that was being brought before the voters in 2014 wasn't, do you want pot shops in your city? It was, do you want to approve or disapprove of this entire initiative? And the people of Oregon approved this entire initiative, including the people of Crook County, even though they didn't vote against it. They voted against it in a 59% majority. 3,747 people voted with the rest of the state. Their votes now are invalidated. They do not get the same rights as the people in the western side of Oregon. And the whole point of having it be put on the ballot to determine whether or not there should be bans on marijuana-related businesses is not a question that was solved back in 2014. Now that marijuana is legal, the question of whether or not you're going to have marijuana-related businesses in your town has a different context to it than in 2014 when marijuana was not legal. I can imagine there may be some voters in Crook County who, when asked whether marijuana should be legal statewide, said no, but now that marijuana is legal statewide, might say yes, figuring that if it's going to be legal, at least it's better if law-abiding businessmen are running the business out here in Crook County. But that entire discussion is impossible now. That was the whole point of having local bans be put before the voters, is that the new discussion in the context of a legalized Oregon could happen. That the advocates who so passionately showed up at the Crook County meeting would have a campaign to make their case to the rest of Crook County, to those 5,358 people who voted no, and try to make the case that, hey, look, you lost the statewide vote. Now that marijuana is legal, wouldn't it be better if we were regulating it and controlling it? But instead, in a 3-0 vote, these Crook County commissioners have basically decided to help the local drug dealer. The Crook County commissioners have basically decided they'd be better off if weed was dealt in the streets and in the parks and the parking lots, and it was grown surreptitiously, and that the home grows were used to disguise, and the medical grows will be used to disguise what will really be grows intended to distribute amongst people, because there are pot smokers in Crook County, and they're going to get their marijuana, and they're not going to want to drive all the way to Portland to do so. Now, somebody in my Twitter feed said, I bet they're really upset that they're going to be missing out on the tax revenue, but that's one of the other problems of Ted Ferrioli's West Idaho Compromise. They don't miss out on the tax revenue, at least not for the first year and a half. Starting on January 1st, marijuana will be taxed at 25% at the dispensaries that sell to adult consumers. And then halfway through 2016, around July, August, once the pot shops show up, those will tax at 17% state tax and 3% local tax. And those counties and cities that are opting out will still receive a share of that 25% state tax, of that 17% state tax until July of 2017. So they get a free ride for 18 months on the backs of taxpayers in Western Oregon who will be shopping at the pot shops. This is an utter shame and a disgrace to American and Oregon democracy that we would split our state in two and have special rules for the cannabigots out west. Out east, I should say.
That's how white folks will do you.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Mr. President. And I should have said out east. The cannabigots out east. We don't want no pot stores. Well, all right. Won't be surprised. Don't be surprised then when you see more pot dealers, more illegal grows. We're going to take a break. It's 20 after. Happy 420 in Denver, Colorado. We're back with Washington DUID numbers right after this.
The Russ Belville Show, where the truth about marijuana gets more than a minute to speak.
This is Radical Russ, encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay. Read the Weed Blog today. You're listening to 420 Radio. Listen Tuesdays at noon Pacific for Greenstream Radio, podcasting at greenstreamradio.com. Greenstream is bringing you the latest developments in legalization in Washington State, straight from the state capitol, plus on-site shows at emerging cannabis clubs at Hempfest. Check our online listings for Greenstream Radio with Grandma Cat, Tim Me, and On One from greenstreamradio.com. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining. One of the frustrating aspects of the legalization of marijuana in Washington state is that it came with a per se DUID provision. Anyone who tests at greater than 5 nanograms of active THC, not metabolites, active THC per milliliter of blood, is automatically guilty of driving under the influence of drugs. Last year, 50 more per se DUIDs, an increase of about 7%, were proven by the Washington State Patrol's toxicology lab. Now, the problem with the 5 nanogram per milliliter per se limit is that unlike alcohol, there's no magic number that guarantees a person with that amount of THC in their blood is too impaired to drive. In fact, Addie Norton, the young medical marijuana patient tested by Cairo News in Seattle, was found to be driving only borderline by a drug recognition officer when she was tested at 56 nanograms per milliliter. However, to harvest those 50 more per se DUIDs, the Washington State Patrol had to submit 802 more samples for the toxicology lab. 16 additional samples for every new per se DUID. Now, despite the rate of positive THC samples rising from almost 25% to 28%, the rate of those samples that were above 5 nanograms per milliliter declined from 53% to 44%. In other words, the only reason 50 more people got per se DUIDs in Washington state in 2014 is because cops increased their overall DUI patrolling by almost 15%. In the prior 2 years, the year-to-year increase in DUIs, total DUIs, was about 3%. So if the cops had kept their same 3% rate of increase, there would have been 28 fewer per se DUIDs in 2014. Now, that's not much comfort to one of the 50, or for that matter, any of the 772 people who got per se DUIDs last year. However, there is a flip side to this coin, and that's how 343 more people in 2014 got out of a DUID because they were under the limit. Before I-502 set a per se standard, driving under the influence of THC was still a crime. The differences were that any amount of THC could be used to find you guilty, but the prosecutor would also have to prove that the amount caused your impairment. Thus, you could be charged with a DUI at as low as 2 nanograms per milliliter, which is the threshold for accurate testing, if a cop also testified that you were driving erratically or failed a field sobriety test. So, in 2011 and 2012 combined, there were 2,024 cases where someone accused of DUI had measurable amounts of THC in their blood, any amount. All 2,000 of those people faced a DUID case where their blood test and the word of a cop meant a likely conviction. It's about a 90% conviction rate back then. But in 2013 and 2014 combined, if you take all 3,118 people with measurable THC, 1,623 of them, or 52% of them, could argue that they were below the 5 nanogram legal limit and not a DUID at all. So in a sense, in 2-year chunks, we went from over 2,000 almost certain DUIDs in 2011 and 2012 to 1,494, almost 1,500 certain DUIDs in 2013 and 2014, a decrease of 26%. Now, if you believe that all people busted at greater than 5 nanograms per milliliter are all unimpaired drivers who just happen to be targeted by cops for unfair punishment, then the increase of 50 more of them is an outrage. But just because greater than 5 nanograms per milliliter doesn't prove impairment, it also doesn't mean those people weren't impaired. To get to the point where the trooper is drawing your blood, he must first arrest you for DUID, and that must be based on a probable cause, and that's got to be more than just the smell of marijuana, because possession of marijuana is legal. Also, some of these drivers, maybe most of them, may have been positive for alcohol and other drugs in addition to marijuana. And how many of them admitted they'd been smoking marijuana recently or failed a field sobriety test? Well, unfortunately, those numbers aren't in the Washington State Patrol's annual report. Well, no matter how you slice it, it's still a terrible standard. But the doom and gloom prophecies about the per se DUID standard that claimed, quote, 10,000 possession arrests per year can easily be converted into 10,000 or more DUI arrests, end quote, were way off the mark. The quote about cops will sit outside of the Seattle Hempfest and shoot hippie fish in a barrel as they leave was way off the mark. Now, we do need to change this per se DUID standard, remove it, abolish it, but it's not the doom and gloom prophecy it was meant out to be. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we've got a Reformer's Reader, a special edition here on a Thursday. We join, oh, wait a minute. I just remembered that Reformer's Reader won't happen until next hour because Dr. Bierman's got a client at 3:30. I don't get to talk to him until 4:30. I'm going to have to adjust stuff on the fly. We'll play Ngaio, Bealum, and Lydia Popovich next for you. We're doing it live on 420 Radio.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Are you enjoying your Hempfest so far? I'm trying to remember what jokes to tell. I'm sure some of you may have seen me before, so it's the same jokes. Because I can't, I smoke a lot of weed. This is international sign language, by the way, right? Everybody knows what this means. Anywhere in the world, everybody knows this. That's how far we've come with weed. You speak more sign language than you know you speak anyway, right? Let's go smoke a joint, right? Let me bum a cigarette, right? This one, never mind. But the point is, I'm just saying, it's not always, hey, I'm doing a show. I'm doing a show, loud people. Sorry, I'm giving a talk. There's less pressure to be funny. You're just giving a talk. I really enjoyed your humorous seminar on marijuana culture, Professor. I don't even know where I would teach. I teach magical plants and potworts. That's what I teach. 10 joints to Spliffender. We all come out here. We love marijuana. That's the thing. Like, I can come out here. I don't even have to convert you guys. Sometimes when I'm on stage, I have to bring people over to the marijuana side, come over to the green side of the force. But you guys already know, right? Weed is the umami flavor. You guys really? They can't even hear me. It doesn't even matter. I'm doing a seminar. Hey, respect the panel. I'm paneling. I'm paneling. Paneling up here. Can someone roll a joint? I have marijuana. Somewhere. I always forget where I put it. For me, no, I won't throw it off the stage. I say, can someone roll me a joint? If you throw a joint to me, it's different, right? I found a loophole. Thank you. I'll just light it up. One of the reasons I love the West Coast is people here ask me if I want marijuana rather than if I have marijuana. You understand? Right? Everywhere else I go, people are like, man, you got any weed? Man, I don't know you. Yeah, all right, come on. I don't want a brownie right now because I'm talking to people. Once I no longer have to talk to people, I will eat all of your brownies. And then I'll have crazy hashish-laced dreams. What were we talking about? Weed? For me, weed is the umami flavor of life. You understand? Right? Weed is the soy sauce. Weed is the ketchup. Weed is the ranch dressing of doing shit. Right? Some shit is cool. You put some weed on it, it's a little bit cooler. Right? Maybe it's not cool at all. Dip it in some weed, it's all right. Right? I don't care to wash dishes, but I don't mind getting high and washing dishes. Right? It's actually very pleasant. It takes an extra hour because I have to make a plate. Thank you, Ed. Let's hear it for New Jersey Weed Man, by the way. Who says people in New Jersey are rude? That was very polite. He brought me a joint and a lighter. Now he's going to smoke it for me, right? I will pass to the left. Ooh, that's delicious. Is that a... terpenes. The terpenes. It's got some purpleine and some sizzling in there. Right? I can taste the Listerine. This is going to make your breath great. This has great effects on breath. Oh, look at all these older people. We're all getting old, right? Some of us been here. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. This is what I noticed. Weed keeps you cute. Old stoners are way cuter than old drunks. Right? You know what I'm talking about? That's what I'm saying. Everybody's like, oh, cute. Grandpa's hitting the bong again. Right? As opposed to grandpa's hitting your mom again. That's a completely different... That's why I like weed. See if I can figure out where it's from with my connoisseur palate. You guys don't do connoisseur? You don't sit around with your fancy pants? Give some tasting notes? It's from New Jersey, right? This is Toledo. Was it Toledo window box? That's the old George Carlin. Somebody from Bellingham. That's the old Elephant and Castle weed. It's the Bellisphere bud. Right? Someone swam over the river from Canada. I don't even know how you get to Canada from here. Practice. But everybody's fancy with the weed now. It's all like, oh, you know, everybody like has tasting notes. This delightful train wreck has notes of limonene and munchies. I don't know. People just make shit up. It's all so crazy. Who's in charge of naming weed, by the way? Do we need weed named green crack? Do you want weed that makes you act like crack? That's not cool. Let's change it up. Naming weed after people is also weird. My boy called me up the other day, right? He's like, hey man, I crossed a white widow with a train wreck. I call it Courtney Love. That joke always kills in Seattle. Oh, take your time. Right? But people, there was weed named after Charlie Sheen for a minute. Charlie Sheen is not a weed head. Charlie Sheen is a crackhead. Would you smoke weed that makes you act like a crackhead? No, you wouldn't. I'm good on the Charlie Sheen. Do you have some Willie Nelson in the back? Perhaps. Right? Let me get an eighth of the Miles Davis. Right? A half ounce of some Jerry Garcia. Right? And a couple of grams of Snoop because I'm going to a party later. And we don't love these hoes. And there's Obama Kush. That shit gets you so high you stare off into space like a president. Thank you. Right? We need more minorities in the cannabis industry, by the way. Can you guys work on that? Can we work on that? You can help me fund my new business. I got a new business. It's a minority-staffed cannabis concentrates extraction company. Black Lives Shatter. I wrote that joke Friday. You can kiss my ass if you don't like it. Here, I'm hogging. Somebody hand that around. I don't want to be that guy. Right, all of a sudden you get revive the weed, the joint, and the microphone. Then I'm really just like, blah, blah, blah. You're like, that joint, I'll give you your lighter back too. All right. Because I will take your lighter, right? If I leave the house with 3 lighters, I come home with 3 lighters. They're not always the same 3 lighters. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's conservation of lighters. Lighters are neither created nor destroyed. They just spontaneously generated in liquor stores. And Costco's. You guys know what I'm high as fuck. I'm getting to that rambly point. See, there's probably some hash happened this morning. I just ramble. You ever ramble? Like, see, I can smoke weed and come out and tell jokes. I practice that. But hash makes me rambly like an old hippie. You know what I mean? You ever hang out? Well, those cats digress, right? It gets tangential. You know what I mean? You ask him how to make a pie, he'll tell you how to grow a tree. Right? Oh, you want my apple pie recipe, man? That's great. That's fantastic. We've been friends long enough. I think you're ready. The first ingredient is love. Listen, I know it sounds corny, man, but people don't say it enough, and everybody acts like it doesn't matter. And if you don't start with love, it's never gonna taste right. So write that shit down first. You start with love, and then it's 2 cups of apples. I recommend a cross or a mix of the Fuji and the Pink Lady. The Fuji comes from Japan, which is interesting. It's one of the older variations. It started in Kazakhstan, which is the birthplace of all apples. I was in Kazakhstan one time after college because I followed the Silk Road on my vision quest, and it was there in this little hut that I met this cat. I think he was like a Uyghur or a Uyghur or whatever, but he had this hash. It was all brown and crumbly and delicious and kind of spicy. It smelled like cinnamon. It's 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. You mix that, it just went on and on for days and days and days. Let's talk about crust, brother. Follow me. I want to show you these seeds I got from my friend Running Bear. I met him at a rainbow gathering in Wyoming in 1982, and we stayed up all night. We did psilocybin and mescaline, and we hybridized these gluten-free seeds, but they keep a flaky crust because the government's fucking up the food supply. Now look, what are your intentions with this pie? Is this a pie of wooing or a pie of... It affects the nutmeg. It took a week and a half, and it took me 5 years to actually make that pie. But it was the best pie I'd ever had in my life because I was finally ready for it, right? my tree had grown. I'm glad you stoners could hang on for the end of that story. I know it gets hard out there sometimes. Wait, what? How much cinnamon? I'm a good cook, though. I love to cook. I'm a good cook because of weed, right? Because I don't have a lot of money, so I will invent some shit to eat. You understand? If we have Bisquick and peanut butter, we got peanut butter rolls coming in 10 to 12 minutes. You know what I'm talking about? 12 to 14, really. I read the box. I looked in the pantry one time. We had marshmallows, margarine, and top ramen. I'm making ramen treats. They were hella good, too. Don't use the flavor packet. That'll fuck it up. It's not a savory dish. I'm glad you guys know what top ramen is, because sometimes you get an upscale crowd in Bellevue or some shit. I like to walk around Bellevue. People stare at me. Is he a Seahawk? I don't recognize him. Maybe he's a coach. He's kind of old to be on the team. But I say something about top ramen, and they just stare at me like, right? I had to break it down to a crowd once. I was like, well, y'all know cup of noodles, right? Uh-huh. Well, I can't afford a fucking cup. I'm just trying to get old noodles. You understand? All right. I see my homegirl, Lydia Popovich, is in the crowd. I may bring her up for a special 5 or 7 minute guest set. She's awesome. She's in town for the Hilarious Comedy Festival this weekend, which is happening at the Armory in the Seattle Center on the 4th floor. You got to go up a thing and then behind a thing and then smell for the weed, and then that's the green room, and then the stage is right past there. And I'm doing a full-on headlining show up there at 8 o'clock, and there'll be other jokes. Don't think I'm exhausting all my jokes right here. I don't even remember my fucking jokes at this point. This is day 3 of the Seattle Hempfest, so I've been pretty much high for 72 hours. Yeah, right? You guys are like, woo, it's good for the arthritis. All right, medical marijuana, I have my card. It helps my pretendinitis. It keeps my stress levels down because getting arrested fucks with my stress. You understand? Right? It's an anti-inflammatory. Right, it keeps me from inflaming on people. So you know what I'm talking about. I love weed. I smoke weed all the time whenever I'm done. Just like, that's my whole thing. People are always like, pot smokers never do anything. I'm like, I always like to get high and then do something. That's always my, like, you get high and go to Hempfest, or you get high and tell some jokes, or you get high and get some booty or whatever. I don't care. The Smoky Pokey's great. But I'm saying, like, I'm on the golf course, high as shit, and nobody cares. Here's the secret about the golf course. The golf course is like a little tiny Vegas. You can do pretty much whatever you want. No one ever said, even in states where weed is illegal, no one has ever said shit to me about my incessant use of marijuana whilst on the links. And I don't think they will. What would they say? They're going to go over to the game marshal. Hey, that black guy with dreadlocks has a bag of weed. Yeah, that sounds about right. Right? You got a whiskey and a cigar. I got a blunt and a Diet Coke. It's a beautiful day. We are all having a wonderful time out here. Keep your head down. One time, I'm out on the links in Sacramento. I got paired up with this random middle-aged white dude. It's me and him on the golf course. Right around the 3rd hole, it was trying to smooth it out, right? Dial it in, lock it down, right? So I pulled out a fat hoop. I took a couple puffs. I did the neighborly thing. Hey, man, you want to hit? No, thank you. But do you have any crack? What? No, sir. And might I add, I find your presumptuousness somewhat off-putting. Because that's how I talk when I'm mad. I'm very precise. And secondly, who the fuck smokes crack on the golf course? What the fuck? That's not gonna help your swing. You can't. Right drug for the right activity, that's my point. Right? Weed in golf makes sense. Booze in golf makes sense. Crack in golf don't make a lick of sense. You understand? You don't do a bunch of crank and go to a chess tournament. Right? You don't eat a bunch of mushrooms and try to run a marathon. What do you mean I'm off course? This whole planet is off course. I see through your whole thing, man. Why am I wearing a number? I'm not a number. Can't run a marathon on mushrooms. Take you 3 days. laughing and crying the whole time, right? Just crying because your feet hurt and laughing because you're happy to have feet. That's how mushrooms work. They teach you the dichotomy, the necessariness of the yin and the yang, and why one must have a hint of the other. That's what it taught me. Some of you just dance around like assholes, which is also cool. You want to do a set? All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat. She took Uber all the way out here from San Francisco, California. She's one of my dear friends. She's doing comedy for a while, killing it, smashing in the Bay Area. Like I said, she's up here for the hilarious comedy festival, the Seattle Center, tonight, and she's here for you right now. Give it up for Lydia Popovich!
Thank you, Ngaio. One more time for Ngaio Bealum in his green suit. Look at that gentleman. Love a man who dresses for a festival, right? Put your clothes on. I thought I was in colored theme, but, you know, I don't have a fucking belt buckle with a goddamn marijuana leaf on it. I need to step up my lifestyle. Hey, y'all, hey! That's my new greeting for 2015. I'm just walking out and just being quaint as fuck, like I'm from the South or some shit. Just, hey, y'all, hey! It's just better than my previous greeting, which is just like walking around completely engrossed within my telephone. When anybody comes remotely close to me, I just used to look up and yell, I don't have any money! Evidently that's rude in Tennessee. Yeah, can't do that there. That's where I learned that. I was just struck by human kindness in the South. I think the South gets a bad rap. It's beautiful there, like it really, really is, but it's absolutely different from the West Coast. You will see shit in the South you'll never see in a million years on the West Coast. Case in point, I was at a Crown Plaza hotel, looking to park my vehicle, couldn't find a place to park. And at first I was very confused as to why there was that many people in downtown Knoxville. And then secondly, I saw spots and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna park there, but I noticed that they had signs. So I drove over and the signs read, for ladies only. And I was like, is that real? Like, is this a weird trap? Is that novelty signage, like duck crossing? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not used to seeing that. And I thought about it for about 2 seconds and then I parked there because I'm a motherfucking lady, okay? But I'm no idiot, so I went in and when I checked in with the concierge, I was like, I've got a question. She goes, oh, sure, did you find everything that you needed? And I was like, well, I'm parked in a spot. It's marked for ladies only. Like, is that a real thing? And the woman looked at me with a genuine Southern smile. Her eyes just lit up with joy and she was like, oh, I'm so happy you found that spot. Yes. We have just discovered that some of our female customers prefer a shorter walk into the lobby. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, is this the Southern way of calling me fat? Like, are you serious right now? And I was angry again for about 2 seconds when I realized I am absolutely one of those ladies that prefers a shorter walk into the lobby. Parked there all fucking weekend. It was beautiful. I like the South because it's just easier to eat. You know, like out here, I'm from San Francisco and we have an incredibly precious food culture. And I know you guys have the same thing here, which is wonderful. Like that's the beautiful thing about the West Coast is we've got gorgeous produce and vegetables. Everybody's very conscious about what we're putting in our faces. But sometimes you just want to go and sit down and order a meal and not hear the origin story of a beet. You know what I mean? Where you're like, some guy named Xander with a curly Q mustache and a row of neon bow ties is like, hi, I wanted to tell you about our beet special. Yes, all of our beets were grown in organic soil. They were plucked with kind hands. Yes, each one was delicately washed in reclaimed rainwater, and then we sous vide it gently at 125 degrees until it was ready to fall apart onto a plate of goat cheese. Yes, namaste. Yes. No, which is like beautiful, but like, can you just tell me it's a beet carpaccio salad and keep it moving? You know what I mean? Like in the South, everything you need to know about food is conveyed by a large lighted sign that just blinks facts. It's just like beef, pork, chicken, ribs, shrimp, all you can eat, family of four, 1995. Like that's how people choose restaurants. You know, and if it doesn't have shrimp, it's not fancy, you know? I saw a commercial for a real restaurant in the town of Nashville. Real restaurant. No words. Opening slate just said, best restaurant in town. Then it proceeded just to have steaming close-ups of like hot tables, just almost erotic close-ups, like soft Vaseline edges like Barbara Walters style of macaroni and cheese, just like and at the end it had a simple Southern voice that said, if you're hungry now, we got food that's hot and ready to eat. That was it. Food's hot. It's ready to eat. And of course, I'm from San Francisco, so I'm just imagining how somebody from the city would fuck that up. They'd be like, well, like, how hot is it? Like, is it so hot it's gonna burn my mouth? Because I don't want that. I don't want that. You see, my husband's on this Ayurvedic diet, so like, food can be warm, but it can't be hot. Is there any way to get the food warm and also ready to eat? Is that an option? Okay, we're gluten-free anyway. People. But we do love food trucks, though. That's a popular thing. Everybody loves food in a truck. Got to get on Twitter. Got to find it. Hope it's parked somewhere remote. Hope it's selling food that looks like it's fucked Mexican food to get there. Korean tacos, sushi burritos, deconstructed samosas. It's like, bitch, I see you. That's a tostada, all right? I'm not waiting in line, and I'm certainly not paying you $12 for that paper bucket and a fork. Not a fan of the food fusion, people. Yeah, food, keep it separated. But I do love the innovation, and I like the idea of making a little extra money. So I've thought to myself, how can I get in this food cart game? So here's my idea. I'm gonna get one of those station wagons with like 4 rows of back seats that your grandparents used to drive. And what I'm gonna sell, gorgeous little artisan sandwich cookies, beautiful flavors, lavender and honey, marmalade and fig. But here's my twist. I'm gonna lace them with meth. And then my business is called Oreo Speedwagon. Super proud of that one. Thanks, very proud of that one. Combines my love of classic rock and cookies, you know? How can you go wrong? So I love words. Obviously, this is an amazing job to have, to be a stand-up comic and be able to stand in front of people and like I get to put words together and you guys get to be on board or not. Like, that's beautiful. Like, language and communication is beautiful. That was a turning point in humanity when like those 2 cave people realized that the grunts that they were saying at each other's faces could equate with emotions and they could express themselves. Like, that's gigantic. Which is why it bums me out that now in our day and age, like, we don't respect language. Like, I'm in my mid-30s and I routinely get texts from friends that don't even include words. It's just like emojis, just like smiley cat face, a cloud of smoke, one of these. Like, what does that mean, you know? I don't even know if my friends' keyboards have vowels. Like, that's how bad it is. And when people actually talk, they don't use words that make a lot of sense. We hear a lot of idioms and phrases that don't make sense. Case in point, whenever I hear someone say, oh, last night I just slept like a baby. Slept like a baby. I just think to myself, do you have a baby? I don't know if anybody in here has a baby, but babies aren't so good at sleeping. Babies wake up because they shit themselves, right? Babies wake up because they're hungry. Most of the time, babies just wake up because they're a stupid fucking baby that doesn't know how to do shit yet. Why would I, a full-grown adult, want to model my sleeping patterns after a stupid fucking baby? Doesn't make any sense. So I like to ask people, have you all just seen a bum sleep? That shit's beautiful. If you haven't, walk yourself through like the shittiest part of town, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Just a little sea of concrete angels just splayed out everywhere. One shoe on, the other nestled under their head like an adorable little pillow. You can walk past them, spill your coffee right on their face. They aren't waking up for shit. That's the kind of sleep I want. I want to sleep like a bum, you know? Just 19 hours of narcotic-induced slumber sounds amazing to me, you know? But then I remember, he could just be dead. Don't care. Rather sleep like a dead bum than a stupid fucking baby. I went to college. I'm an adult. I deserve narcotic-induced slumber. My name is Lydia Popovich. You all been fantastic. Let's bring out Ngaio!
Thank you, Lydia Popovich! Traveling all around. That's what you get to do when you're a comic. You travel all around. I've never been to Japan. Do they have good weed in Japan? I don't know. I hear they don't roll joints. They just fold them into animal shapes. Bowl of gummy. Smoke a pelican. No. All right. You guys got quiet like I was about to putt. Let's legalize weed, everybody. Let's keep it legal. Hey, then listen, while we're here, let's legalize a few more drugs. Why not? Right? Why not? Drug abuse isn't a criminal problem. It's a social health issue. You understand? Right? If we legalize all the drugs, we're not going to end up with a nation full of addicts. Shit, we already have a nation full of addicts. I mean, it's not, whoever wants to do drugs in America right now can do drugs. Right? It's stopping drugs that creates the problem. You know what I'm saying? Right? Or staying on drugs once you get hooked. Like, I mean, listen, if we legalize heroin tomorrow, who's going to go out and buy heroin? Like, me. I'm the only one. Right? And I don't even do heroin. I'm just a good host. Right? If you want to come over, I also have a liquor cabinet. I don't really drink, but shit, if you want to have a drink or chase the dragon, whatever, it's Friday. I don't care. Everybody here does drugs. We're all on drugs, mostly on weed here, but whatever. Maybe you had a couple drinks. Maybe you're on an Oxy or Metamucil. I don't care. Maybe you take yoga. Maybe you're on Jesus. I don't give a shit. Just handle your shit. That's all I ask. You do drugs around me. I don't care. Have fun. Let me know, though, right? If you're all fucked up on something, please tell me that you're on drugs so I don't think you're having some sort of weird psychotic break in your middle age or whatever. Right? Do a bunch of ecstasy. I'll buy you orange juice. I don't give a shit. I'll let you rub my green vintage polyester jacket. I'll give you the car wash treatment. Lean back. Right? You talk about the nature of addiction. I smoke a lot of weed, but I'm not addicted to weed. I've gone without marijuana for hours and days at a time in certain small Idaho towns. And I've never had a problem. My dreams are vivid, but that's about it. Right? When you try to take my cigarettes from me, I will stab you in your neck. You understand? Right? I smoke a pack a day, and it's terrible. And they're expensive out here in Washington. It's $10 for, I smoke the fancy organic. They're organic because I'm killing myself in a healthy manner. Right? Like an educated nihilist, existentialist. Right? I gave somebody, this is a little tangent, I guess. I digress a bit. But I gave somebody bummed a cigarette from me the other day, right? And I handed it to her, and then I was half drunk, so I was all like, to your health. And she just looked at me all crazy, right? But I don't know. Like every other drug you do has a ritual. Like you stand in the circle smoking a joint, there's always forever somebody bowing or pointing some shit up or whatever. Or when you drink, you toast glass or whatever. What do you do when you give somebody, optimism? Well, I don't know. What do you do? What do you yell? Persevere. Fatalism. I don't know. We got to have something, right? You guys can't have all the fun. But the point is, I could quit smoking, right? If I had to live in Seattle, I probably would quit smoking because it's $10 a day, right? So that's $300 a month. Boom. You can put that money in a jar, right? $300. At the end of the month, you have $300. You can do whatever. You could go to Vancouver for the weekend or whatever. You could buy hookers and crack with $300. Listen, if you buy $300 worth of crack, hookers will show up. And they'll bring cigarettes, which is what I really want. It's been a month and I'm kind of fiending on one, right? I'm good on the sex, but can you leave the Marlboros? That would be great. So that's really the nature of it, right? Some people will trade drugs for sex, and I will trade drugs for different drugs that I like better. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Am I just rambling up here? It's like I'm speaking French. Do I have many minutes left, Donnie? Because I'll talk till people tell me to stop. All right, 1 minute. We'll think of something to wrap it up. Oh, I have DVDs for sale over there, by the way. If you'd like to buy a DVD of my 420 Friendly Comedy Special, it's only at least $10, right? Right? It's $10. Unless maybe your cannabis club is doing great, then maybe throw me $20. You understand? Right? Maybe your meth lab is kicking ass this summer. Throw 50 at me. Try to get some karma back. Support the arts. I have children. They never eat less food. Right? Children always eat more food. You can never lower your food budget when you have kids. You can be like, hey, this year you got to eat at your friends' houses at least 3 times a week. We're trying to save some money on the food budget. Why are you here? You're supposed to be eating somewhere Wednesday. I don't know why you're here. It's funny to me. But before I go, I would like to thank the Seattle Hempfest for starting it all off. Let's hear it for Seattle Hempfest, right? Thanks to these guys, 24 years later. This used to be the only thing, right? But now you can go somewhere every weekend. You can hit some shit. You can go to the Portland Hemp Stalk, the State of Jefferson Hemp and Music Expo, the Ann Arbor Hash Bash, the Boston Tea Freedom Rally, or whatever they call it, the Olympia Peace, Love, and Pop Festival.
And Ngaio, Bealum, and great set there, too, from Lydia Popovich. That was at the Seattle Hempfest Hemposium stage. And folks, that's all the time we got for Hour 1, our podcast hour. But you live listeners, stay tuned for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. And you podcast listeners, if you want to hear Toker Talk Radio, you can always get a VIP membership at 420radio.org/VIP. Get you access to the Toker Talk Radio replays that are stored at 420radio.org. Hour 2, we've got Dr. David Bierman joining us from California. He's the author of Drugs Are Not the Devil's Tools, which I think is the Emperor Wears No Clothes for all drugs. And we've also got some music from SL51, an artist who performed at Seattle Hempfest. For everyone here at Roller J Studios in beautiful legal Portland, Oregon, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed.